Hey everybody, it's Jason High back here with another video. So the Kansas City Royals won a game tonight, 4-1 over the Baltimore Orioles. Alec Marsh, the still rookie pitcher that broke camp with the rotation, broke spring ball with the rotation, came out and had a really good start, pitched 7 innings and gave up 0 runs. But that's not the big story of the day in Kansas City. The big story of the day in Kansas City that the proposal to extend and continue the 3/8 cents sales tax in Jackson County for renovations to Arrowhead and for construction, partial funding, public funding of construction of a new Kansas City Royals downtown ballpark failed. It did not pass. It lost 58 to 46, I believe, percent, or 42, I guess 58-42 percent, and yeah, it was a big margin of difference. Wow. I mean, yeah, I'm surprised. Now, I'm not surprised that it did not pass. I think that this was a plan that has been kind of sloppy from the beginning. I think the Royals have handled it very sloppily. I think that they have not been very transparent about how they plan on using this money, other than it's going to go to a new downtown ballpark. They did release renderings of the stadium a few months ago, but even as recently as this week, there have been some changes. Mayor Quinton Lucas was very adamant that he did not want Oak Street to remain closed. For those of you that are familiar with Kansas City, Oak Street is a pretty well-used street in the Crossroads district area there, and then this week, the Royals said, we'll keep it open then. So it's kind of just one of those things where it's like, I think even just that right there was a little bit symbolic that this plan is not really in place yet. And I think the analogy that I would like to use with this is that I don't think it is a bad idea for the Royals to go downtown. I haven't really shared my thoughts on that much on this channel, but me personally, I am 100% for a downtown Kansas City Major League Baseball stadium for the Royals. I do like going to downtown ballparks. St. Louis has a ballpark downtown. Chicago obviously has theirs in the city. Denver, the Colorado Rockies Stadium is right downtown. I mean, it is a very modern plan, and it is the trend that Major League Baseball is going towards. Typically what teams will do is that they will build their downtown ballpark, but they also will buy up land around it so that they can build their own hotels, their own businesses, office space, bars, things like that, kind of like Ballpark Village in St. Louis. And that revenue goes back towards the team. So it really is economically good for the Royals and probably will have a positive effect on their payroll that they spend for players, and therefore will probably lead to more wins on the field. So I am all for a downtown ballpark. I obviously don't want the Kansas City Royals to leave Kansas City, and I don't want the Chiefs to leave Kansas City either, and I don't even want them to go to the Kansas side. I wouldn't hate the Royals playing in downtown North Kansas City. I've actually always thought that would be kind of cool, but I don't want them to leave the metro area in Kansas City is the point. And so I'm not against a downtown ballpark, but just this plan, in my opinion, has been just not fleshed out enough. I just think that they're just not, excuse me, they just haven't been very transparent about what they're going to do with the money. If you look at the bill a little bit more closely, that there's supposed to be a community development and benefit plan, and it really wasn't that. Looking at it closely, it left a lot to be desired in terms of the language of it. I'm not going to go into that here because there's lots of places that if you want to go look for it, you can. Royals Review would be a website I would definitely recommend if you want to get some more details on the community benefit plan that the Royals released. And it just really kind of seems like that regardless of what I personally think, I think that this vote shows you what the residents of Jackson County think. The residents of Jackson County did not trust the Kansas City Royals right here. I don't really hear anyone saying anything about the Chiefs in terms of like, oh, is it the Chiefs' fault? The Chiefs are just like the Royals. They were wanting to get public money also out of this. Their money was going to be significantly less, and it was going to be for renovating an already existing and beloved Arrowhead Stadium versus tearing down Kauffman Stadium and moving downtown, which that right there was divisive for people anyways. There's a lot of people that would just like the Royals to stay at Kauffman. I've talked to people that just say, I don't want it to move to downtown because it's a further drive for me. It's like, okay, well, that's fine for you, but I'm thinking more about the big city here, and there are more people in Kansas City than there are Raytown, Independence, Lee Summit. So again, regardless of what I think, this vote tells you that clearly the citizens of Jackson County did not feel that this was a viable plan, that this was a good enough plan, that the Royals had good intentions here. And I think that it's important for people to remember that just because this was voted down does not mean that the Royals are leaving. Does not mean that, oh no, the Royals are leaving. This may be the first step towards something like that happening, which I don't think anybody wants, including John Sherman. Remember, John Sherman, the owner of the Kansas City Royals, is from the Kansas City metro area. He grew up around here. That's not a guarantee that he won't leave, that he won't try to relocate the team elsewhere, but I think it tells you that he really does want to stay in Kansas City. It's just that the way that ballparks are built in the United States is they are typically publicly funded. They're a mix of public and private funding. Now, some stadiums, like the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, Jerry World, I think that was mainly privately funded. The new New York Yankees Stadium, that had a large private funding in it. But typically there's always some public funding in these stadiums. So it's not out of the realm of possibility or something crazy to ask citizens to help fund a private ballpark. That's just kind of the way it is. It's just the way things go. So I'm not necessarily even against that personally. I just think that this could have been handled better by the Royals. I think that it could be a little bit more of a fair deal in terms of the payout that comes from the public compared to private funding. And I just think that they really need to really listen to the fans here and listen to the residents of Jackson County about things that there are concerns that they really didn't address. Hey, what about having 40,000 parking spaces downtown? Hey, how is this going to affect the Crossroads District? Hey, is there good enough public transit to get us to and from downtown, or is downtown just going to be backed up all the time now? I mean, those are the big questions. You know, what would happen if Major League Baseball went under? If Major League Baseball goes away, the city is still on the bill for this. They still are getting stuck with the bag, so to speak. So there are questions out there. I think the Chiefs' renovations to Arrowhead also kind of play into this a little bit. I think that most people are pretty underwhelmed by what those looked like. I know I definitely was at first. Now, admittedly, I think that most people would like Arrowhead Stadium to stay the same as what it is. They don't really want it to be completely different. But the truth is people don't always know what they want. And I just would say that, again, I think that this plan was held in a very sloppy manner, whereas, Arrowhead, they release renderings 2 months before the vote. 2 months before the vote. Before that, there was no communication about what the renderings, about what the upgrades to the stadium would be. It was just 2 months before, hey, here's a drawing, here's what we want to do. It's like, okay, well, that's not good enough. I'm sorry that, Jackson County residents are telling you by this vote tonight that was not a good enough explanation about where their taxpayers' dollars were going. So I'm very intrigued to see what happens next. Obviously, again, I want the Kansas City Royals to stay here. I want the Kansas City Chiefs to stay here. I just think that the Royals and the Chiefs, I'm looking at this more like it's a negotiation tactic in terms of Jackson County versus them. They both want to get a deal done. Both parties want to get a deal done here. I firmly believe that. I do not think that there's any malcontent here. I think it's just this is negotiating, and this is kind of negotiating 101. I mean, basically the Chiefs and the Royals thought they could come to the table, and they thought they could throw out a plan that was half-baked, that they could change pieces of it the week before the vote, that they could have very vague language and essentially just their own made up documents that just essentially say this is a community benefit plan, whenever the reality is it's like, well, who does it benefit? It benefits the Royals. And then the Chiefs, with a lot of their upgrades to Arrowhead Stadium, if you look at those renderings, you can go look at it on Arrowhead Pride, you can go look at it at KansasCityChiefs.com, you go look at them. They're a couple months old now, but they're out there. A lot of it is really just benefiting people that are going to be in suites. Yeah, there's some TV upgrades. I think they're going to make the Concourse 360 on the upper level, which I actually like that part of it, because if you've ever been to Arrowhead and you've ever gone up and then had to go back down because you were in the wrong section, that would help, sure. But I think that it shows here that they just thought that they could just throw any plan out there and Jackson County residents would vote yes because they are terrified of the Chiefs or Royals potentially leaving, and because they just want to capitalize on the Chiefs' recent success. And I think that tonight showed you that that's not good enough. The Kansas City Royals and Chiefs are going to have to come back with a better plan, with a more formulated and calculated and detailed plan as to what they're going to do with their money. Maybe they put up a little bit more private funding. Maybe they talk about where that money's going to go. Maybe they do some more town hall meetings. They talk to the fans and they figure out, hey, maybe they don't want it in the Crossroads district. Maybe they want it downtown. They want it in the government district. Maybe, we'll see. But ultimately, just to be clear, I would like the Chiefs and Royals to remain in Jackson County. They've been in Jackson County since their inception. I am a Jackson County resident. It's the largest county in the metro in terms of population. Like, I want them to stay here. But that being said, I am ultimately okay with the fact that the people in Jackson County spoke and told you that this was not a good enough plan. And we're not just going to vote for anything just because it's got Patrick Mahomes endorsing it. I'm sorry, we're just not going to. And so I'm proud of Kansas City for doing that, because I think it shows that they are really paying attention to the details here. And I think that they're really looking at it and really trying to figure out, okay, well, where is this money going? Now, the other side of that is there's probably a very healthy percentage of people that voted against it just because they simply don't think it's right that their tax dollars should be going towards a private business. I think that's fair, but what I would tell those people is I would just say, go Google 100% privately funded Major League Baseball stadiums in the United States, and you will find that this is not the norm. It is not the norm for the owners to completely pay for it on their own. So there is typically always going to be some public funding. Now, you look at like a stadium like the Kansas City Current Stadium, that one was 100% privately funded. The difference is that stadium only cost $120 million to build, whereas a new Royals downtown ballpark would cost about $1 billion. So very, very different numbers. We're talking about a tenth, in terms of the total cost. So I really don't think that's apples to apples. So I am okay with paying for these stadiums because that's the way it goes. It's the way it is. If you want to have major league teams, if you want to have NFL teams, that's kind of part of it. But what I'm not okay with is the Royals and Chiefs just throwing something out there and just assuming that all Jackson County residents were going to vote yes just because they, like I said, are either afraid of losing the Chiefs or they just think, well, the Chiefs are so great, of course we'll vote for it. So anyways, I'm really curious to see what happens going forward. I will do some videos here soon talking about the baseball team itself because it looks like they've had, they're 2-3 so far this season, so not a great start, but the starting pitching's looking really good. Bobby Witt Jr. is looking like a star, and there's a lot of things to be excited about the team on the field itself, and I hope we'll get to that more this week. So, yeah, we'll have more reaction from this later on in the week and talk about some of the moves the Chiefs have made. So that's it for me tonight. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.